So, this game called Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp was recently released in Japan. And it was an expansion in a game mode from a previous game in Danganronpa V3. And in my previous video, I basically shot it in the head over and over and pointed out how stupid it was. And despite how dumb I think most of the game is, after a huge reception on my last video, and after seeing your so many comments, I think it's time I give this game a revision and try to see what it does right. And see why it isn't the worst game I've ever seen. As a recap of last video, or for the people who haven't seen it, I basically talked about how the game had a bunch of messed up sprites, how it was overall very inconsistent, or nitpicking on personal things that annoyed me or disappointed me about the game. Like the lack of new CGs, for example. Oh my god, I really hate that. Come on, Spike Chunsoft, do better. And I called it a waste of time that needed more work. But in my video, I wasn't really the most objective, or even serious for that matter. It wasn't an honest critique, I was just like bitching about random shit for 10 minutes. However, due to popular demand, I will try to like the game. Now, before continuing, let me clarify that this game has not been translated. I am simply going over what we know about the game, what we've seen, but I would not be talking about the interactions because I don't know what this means. So, let's get started. Part 1. The gameplay. In Danganronpa S, you go on a board, sometimes doing RPG type battles, sometimes talking to characters, with little interactions, and all that other stuff. The gameplay is identical to Danganronpa V3's Ultimate Talent Development Plan. It's really nothing mind-blowing. I wouldn't call it a 10 out of 10 best game of the year, best game of all time, but it's fun enough to be a side game mode. The visual upgrade is incredibly noticeable when you compare it to Ultimate Talent Development Plan. So that has a plus going for it, and seeing the characters was pretty cool too. However, the gameplay seems targeted to a very specific kind of fans for the game. Those who seem to like more character-oriented interactions, taking a more light approach to the game, rather than the mystery solving and the trials and all that. They'd much rather take it slower and just dig in the characters. And this type of player is not me. But I actually went back to play Ultimate Talent Development Plan, and to be honest, it was actually kind of fun. I actually had fun watching the interactions and seeing the characters do their stuff in an otherwise environment they'd never meet in. This game mode is like an official fanfiction, if it makes sense. It's made for people who want to like the characters, and despite its incredibly simple but fun gameplay, are willing to see their favorite characters interact with each other. As I mentioned, this game seems specifically tailored for a different type of player than the ones like me. It's a side mode specifically for these people after all. And speaking of these Danganronpa fans, let's talk about them a little and why they're made for this game. Part 2. The audience. Now, as explained in my last video, this game is not for people like me who are in it more for the murder mystery and trials and investigation and all that, but for people who like the characters and... oh god. This game seems tailored towards that type of audience, and it does it really well. From what I've heard, this game was not written by the original writer of the games, rather by the people who wrote the Love Hotels. And if you want a refresher on what the Love Hotels brought, let me bring you highlights of the most disturbing shit there. And as a result of that, people are afraid the interactions won't be accurate. But from what's been seen, there are a lot of interactions. I'm talking in the hundreds. And this type of player I'm talking about buy the game for this reason. To see their favorite characters in a fanfiction type environment with official material that would otherwise never talk. And honestly, it's weird to call it an official fanfiction, but that's exactly what it is. It's just the characters talking in an environment they wouldn't in canon. Where it fell apart is for the rest of us, for people like me who like to bitch about sprites for 10 minutes. But for other people, this game looks like it's gonna be really good. And I'm sure they're gonna enjoy a lot, seeing as there's gonna be interactions between the characters. Probably in the hundreds or even thousands, I don't know. I don't know. But for people like me, and everyone else who isn't this type of player, they won't enjoy the game as much. And if you were here for the art like me, you really won't enjoy the game at all. But let's just wrap this up. Enough talking about Danganronpa fans, oh my god. Part 3. The conclusion. Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp is a game that's standalone. It's a 4 out of 10 at best, but it isn't meant to be standalone. It's a game made for fans of the original games, and meant for people to see the interaction between the characters, and what they have to offer in a killing-less scenario, and how they would react in situations where otherwise they would never talk in canon. As I said, it's like an official fanfiction, and the developers are giving them a chance to do so. And while I do think a lot of the things I said in my video hating on it still stand, like the lack of CG, I think what the game does right, it does really good, and it tailors to specific fans of the game who will think it's a very good game, and not for people like me. This game is made for a different audience with different people in mind. Final verdict? I still think it's a pretty mediocre game, but despite all the disappointments it gave me and many others, it seems to be really appealing for the fans of the franchise, and what does, like the interactions, I'm sure it will do really well. And even if it hasn't been translated, people will like it and probably talk about the interactions and designs for a long time after this. And despite the game itself having errors, I think it'll be a good game for many people, especially longtime fans of the series who have like no new content for like, what, 4, 5 years? In any case, I'm sure people will take this game and like it, but even if I don't personally like it, you don't have to take this as the objective truth. Just buy whatever you want. And if this game appeals to you, that's really cool. Go ahead, buy it. I can't believe I had to explain it again, since a lot of the people in my comment section were a little upset. But if you like the game, go ahead, buy it. Don't let me stop my stupid nitpicking from buying it. Danganronpa in itself means a lot to a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people excited for the new interactions. Since characters are so important in the community, I am really happy for those people. I'm glad they're getting what they want. And for people who like the trials and don't really care that much, like me, I guess there's always a next time since this series can be milked to death if I'm honest. But this game does a good job on what it targets, and for a side game, it's pretty cool. However, despite all of this, despite everything I just talked about, I absolutely despise Danganronpa.